It's probably the greatest time to be a Konami fan right now. After a decade of basically vanishing from games, they're as strong as they've ever been. Metal Gear Solid 3's remake and the titles being accessible through the Master Collection, Silent Hill getting a remake and 2 new games, it's looking good for Konami and all of its beloved IPs. And now we have a major collab with another series, Solid Snake to Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. Snake joins his other stealth action brother Splinter Cell's Sam Fisher as the next operator in Tom Clancy's universe. But of course that raises the question to most: how? Many fans of Metal Gear know Snake's story and his life reach an end in Metal Gear Solid 4. Snake put down the gun and spent the last of his life with the found family he had with the little time he had left. But how is he here in Tom Clancy's world? And also, how is he not as old as Sam? This isn't old Snake from Metal Gear Solid 4, this Snake is younger and still in his MGS2 attires. Ubisoft confirmed that Snake is canonically here, but in their own way. But what does that mean? In this video, I'll be diving into the lore, what we can gather, and what we can speculate, to overall piece together who is Tom Clancy's Solid Snake. Rainbow Six Siege has always been a game with lore. Each operator has counter-terror backgrounds with their own stories to tell, mainly inspired by the actual backgrounds of Team Rainbow in the original Tom Clancy book. That also includes Solid Snake, who has his own background in-game, but a bit different, as some things are kept rather anonymous to not only keep Snake in lore, but to keep his ultra-stealth profile. Good for us, there's a lot of things to cover, so let's take a look at Snake's biography. Documentation regarding aka Solid Snake is so heavily redacted that we can only speculate on the full scope of his career. Multiple soldiers we've interviewed claim that he is nothing more than a myth, a legend to aspire to. However, the existence of his dossier disproves these perspectives and suggests that he may serve as a potential ally. This little information that has been verified is due in part to the assistance of Samuel Zero Fisher, who has interacted with him in the past. Solid Snake joined the military at a young age, where he excelled as a Green Beret and demonstrated an aptitude for linguistics, paratrooper techniques, and combat diving. He continued to develop his expertise in the fields of espionage and intelligence gathering until eventually joining Foxhound, where he was given the codename Solid Snake. Studying under the head of the unit and CQC expert, his infiltration skills became unmatched. Solid Snake left Foxhound under the mysterious circumstances following a mission in South Africa. Even Sam Fisher was unable to provide additional information on what caused him to leave and then briefly join the CIA, before disappearing from the world again. After leaving the CIA, rumors started floating around the agency that he was part of a wet work mission in remote Alaska. More reports allege he created his own NGO under the name of Philanthropy to combat nuclear threats, as stated previously. We are unable to confirm nor deny this information's validity. Just from that alone, we have major points from the games mentioned. Snake joining the Green Berets at a young age, being scouted for Foxhound and training under Big Boss, Outer Heaven where Snake would kill punished Venom Snake in Metal Gear 1, Zanzibar Land where Snake would kill Big Boss, him disappearing before being recruited by Colonel Campbell in Metal Gear Solid 1, and now in the present day for Siege, Philanthropy in Metal Gear Solid 2. Sure, some things are redacted, but it's safe to say that story-wise a majority of the game's events did play out in Tom Clancy's world. The next part is a documented interview with Sam Fisher, where Sam explains that Snake and him served together in the CIA at some point, most likely with Sam meeting Snake between the events of Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear Solid 1. This part is honestly just pure fan service, and I love it, with Sam giving nothing but praise to Snake, but also kinda teasing the idea that if they were to fight, who'd actually win. It's short but it's sweet, and it's nice to see Sam give Snake his flowers after so many years of being competitors. We also have a list of his affiliations and skills. Snake's listed skills all make sense. Halo jumping, scuba diving, CQC, and infiltration is fairly the standard when you carry the title of Snake. Snake's relevant experience is the US Army, the Green Berets, Foxhound, the CIA, and Philanthropy. Which of course I assume with the parts redacted we are missing some key locations and events that happen, which I assume are probably Outer Heaven, Zanzibar Land, Shadow Moses, and probably even deeper if they're canon to Tom Clancy's world, the Les Enfants Terribles, which we'll get to that later. And finally, in terms of his gadget, we get a written report from a surprising person, considering everyone's tech is handled from the same R&D team in Siege. Snake's Soliton radar was made and documented by our favorite otaku, Arakan, who made mailing Soliton a portable device. This is also sort of fan service like Sam's interview. It's just really cool to see that Otacon is also included in Snake's story, and to see him talk his usual nerd talk is fun after not hearing it for maybe the latter half of 2 decades. Well, that's basically everything canon to CLANCY'S Snake, but that leaves out all the middle stuff that Ubisoft and Konami have left up to the player. Now, with that, buckle up, because this is where we're going to enter the territory of all the speculation and theories on the world of Metal Gear in Tom Clancy's universe. Now, this is where we get to the really crazy stuff with speculation. For Snake to be alive and in his mid-30s today, the entire lore of Metal Gear Solid changes, including the game's dates, especially since Snake died over a decade ago in 2014 during Metal Gear Solid 4. Assuming that of course nothing really changes timeline-wise besides the years, for Snake to be 35 to 37 now, or if you're watching from the future, his introduction in 2026, Snake would have had to been born in the late 80s, as well as Liquid Snake and Solidus Snake. Operation Snake Eater shifts and would have taken place now in the early 80s. MSF would have risen and collapsed in the early 90s, leading to Venom Snake's rise of the Diamond Dogs and Outer Heaven, this time now in the early 2000s. Metal Gear 1 would have taken place in the early 2010s, as well as the late 2010s for Metal Gear 2, with Solid Snake succeeding in destroying ultimately Zanzibar Land and Outer Heaven. Metal Gear Solid and the events of Shadow Moses would have taken place earlier this decade, which leads to currently Metal Gear Solid 2, which would lead us to the Snake we have now in Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. It's an interesting timeline, and some stories' themes kinda break in some parts like Metal Gear Solid 3, but the later storylines in Metal Gear's lore, when shifted, no longer become the crazy sci-fi they were at the time, but a chilling reality. AI information control, war becoming a dystopian economy, the desensitizing and monetization of war and violence. All these things that Kojima wrote about all those years ago have almost come to fruition without the giant robots. Yet. Overall, Snake fits fine going into this universe, and sure, his inclusion is a huge shift for the timeline in Ubisoft's rendition to keep Snake alive and make sense of it, but it still works. But that's also kind of more of a show of how well Metal Gear Solid and its game's messages have aged over time for Snake to fit. Now the other question asked is, how can he fit into Siege's world? Isn't Team Rainbow about the most realistic counter-terror units in the world? Well... Listen, Tom Clancy's world is extremely grounded, and there's a reason why many real combat veterans and military personnel love his work. But Siege is kinda leaning on the sci-fi with the changing times since the books came out. Surprisingly, the world Snake exists in is also similar to whatever direction Ubisoft has taken Team Rainbow. Now, after the introduction of the PMC Nighthaven, we've gone off the deep end with basically the crazy stuff from Metal Gear being kind of the standard, including the Metal Gears themselves, with Nighthaven in possession of their own bipedal weapons. I'm sure Tom Clancy is loving this somewhere maybe. It's definitely left field for a book about global counter-terror, but hell, even the idea of nanomachines being used like snakes are already in the lore and are used on Sam Fisher to keep him in combat. The only thing we haven't seen confirmed or denied is the Les Enfants Terribles, or the specifics of it. I think that's the only question we won't be able to have answered. But if I were to assume that they were changed, either the triplets are all legit sons, which I don't know, or Snake and Liquid weren't going to rapidly age, which in the original was a failsafe for the boys. I doubt that's the same case though for Solidus, since that was always the plan with him for the beginning, but anything I say after this point is just purely speculation that doesn't count on who CLANCY'S Snake actually is. And I think that leads to the overall conclusion when talking about what version of Snake Ubisoft is giving us. Dates aside, Snake's story does exist, and for the most part lines up with Team Rainbow's world, but up to Metal Gear Solid 2. From Outer Heaven to Big Shell, Snake is still the legendary hero. But at this point in time, this is where Snake's story will split from the main continuity of Kojima and Konami. From here, Snake will exist with whatever story Rainbow puts up, as Snake and Philanthropy join a greater cause with Team Rainbow. The later reality for Snake, where the world descends into endless war, isn't as likely. Metal Gear Solid 4 won't happen, as not only is it too far-fetched and dystopian for Rainbow's world, it just hasn't happened yet in the timeline. And Metal Gear Solid 2 is kind of the perfect place to have Snake be in, since in the lore, it's kind of the middle point. Snake is still a legendary hero with all the experience, fighting for a cause and still pushing for a future, but now joined by allies who will fight alongside his cause in a world that's basically not too different from his own. Well, what we fully know about this version of Snake might never be truly revealed, but that's also kinda the idea. Just like the Patriots and how they control information, in Metal Gear, who sieges Snake really is up to whatever people say it is. We have his official biography, we have a few things we can pick up and try to paint, but we won't have an answer. But it's also still somewhat there. Looking at his official story, timeline shifts, and mixing and matching between consistencies, we get a picture of who Snake is. And maybe for some aspects your guess is as good as mine, but one thing will stay consistent. No matter who he really is, this is still Snake, the legendary hero, the icon, and the... Oh, come on, man! Oh!